Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk Fishing with No Limits, brought to you by Seagar High Performance Braids and Seven Reels, spelled Sevin, reels.com. Check them out. Today, we are staying right here in South Dakota, talking to a couple hammers, a couple great fishermen and good friends of mine, the Skipper brothers, Justin and Lauren. We're gonna talk tournament fishing, MWC, NWT, some local tournaments that we got coming up. These guys have done them all. They've been around for quite a while. Done really well, NTC, MWCs, and NWTs. And we're going to talk just in general about a lot of tournament fishing, a little bit of upcoming Lake Sharp tournament that's coming up here in the April, Cedar Shores tournament coming up here next week. These guys know what they're doing. They're a couple great fishermen and just a flat out couple good dudes. And hey, with the last name like Skipper, what else could you expect except being a hell of a fisherman? So stay tuned, and we're going to hear from the Skipper brothers right after this brief message from Seven Reels. Whatever your skill or experience level is as an angler, you deserve a fishing reel that contributes to your success and satisfaction on the water and never detracts from it. From the makers of St. Croix rods, Seven Reels, spelled Sevin, is born of 7 decades of design and manufacturing expertise, industry-leading angler support, and the American family ownership dating back to 1977. Seven Reels are designed and crafted for high performance and unrelenting reliability. Verified at least 16 different ways by extreme torture testing at Seven's one-of-a-kind Park Falls, Wisconsin laboratory. Seven Reels are also proven on the water by the most demanding professional guides and tournament anglers. So by the time a Seven reaches your hands, it's ready for anything you throw at it. Guaranteed by the best and easiest warranty in the industry. Disappointment happens, but there should never come as a result of your reel. Seven Reels are tested, proven, and guaranteed to be the most reliable on the planet. Check out the entire lineup at sevenreels.com. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk Fishing with No Limits. Today, we're talking to a couple of the hottest South Dakota sticks, the jigging guys, the Skipper brothers are coming into us from Penn. Hey, where are you at, Lauren? You guys both in Pierre?
South Dakota.
Platte. All right, you're over in Platte now, and you're in Pierre, right, Justin?
No, Huron, South Dakota.
Oh, Huron. Why the hell do I keep thinking Pierre? We spent so much time. You were in Pierre, right? In between, we're just river rats, right? That's where we're all from. So, what's going on with you guys? How's it going on this beautiful Sunday? And I don't know if you got to watch the Bassmaster Classic or not today.
No, didn't get time to watch that. Just kind of family day. Got some chores done, stuff like that. Good day to get out of the wind, I guess. So. Kind of get caught up so when the wind doesn't blow, we can get out there on the water.
Yeah, it's been a windy week.
Yeah.
So, typical South Dakota, right, Lauren? That's just how it is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm kind of doing the same thing, just hanging out with family today, went to church, and now I'm kind of doing some final touches on fishing stuff and getting ready to pack the boat up for, start pre-fish for Cedar Shore and the NWT, and got to get all my jigs ready. And
that's right. Got to get them jigs ready. I actually spent the morning in the garage pouring last night and this morning, pouring jigs and making more jigs. And they're just getting so expensive. I have, guiding purposes, I'm like, I'm just going to start pouring more of my live bait jigs anyway. And I probably did 100 of those this morning and yesterday. And I just put the Classic on TV, and it was a good way to pass time while it's blowing 30, 40 miles, an hour outside again. So.
No need to be on the water today. I love pouring jigs. I used to do it. It's really rewarding catching fish on your own jigs. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is. Kind of like seining your own bait and stuff. And, when you catch them on your lures you make and the bait you catch, you are exactly right. It is pretty rewarding. And if you're a little artsy, or even if you're not, painting jigs is, just like a lot of guys paint crankbaits because they just enjoy doing it,
Yeah, I've been known to get a little over creative with some of that.
Well, if you're watching the Classic or not, Lee Lively was doing the old bubblegum color, and it was working pretty darn good for him. So everybody's like, hey, he's bringing it back, And I used to bass fish a lot, and that was one of my favorite colors. But don't use it as much in the walleye fishing.
What are the standings looking like?
Looks like Evan or Ethan, damn it, I can't remember his name right now. Father Gill or something like that. From the Minnesota kid, rookie, is going to win. Pretty sure he's going to win. And then Trey McKinney is sitting right behind him. But at the last about a half hour, Ethan caught a 8-pounder, which boop. So he'll set a new Bassmaster Classic record on a 3-day bag of, was that 74 pounds or something probably. And then Trey right behind him. So, and for his first classic. So yeah, a rookie of the year last year, another young gun this year, just like Hammer was. I think he was. No, Hammer's been on a couple of years, but he had a big bag day too. But yep, the two guys scoping, they got it done. So,
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
but yeah, the two youngest, I think they're the two youngest guys there too, are going to be first and second. So second to 50th, is whatever, right? It's a classic you want to win. It's like a $300,000 payout to first place. So pretty big deal in the bass world. We don't have that in the walleye world. You guys are pretty familiar with the walleye tournament. It's been fishing MWTs, MWCs, the local tournament circuit for a long time. I called you the jigging guys because when I first started MWCs, that's what everybody, you got to watch out for them skipper boys. Them skipper brothers, man, they're jiggers. They jig, and they can catch them. And this is truth. We're speaking truth.
Yeah, we've always liked jigging. It's probably one of the, first techniques we learned for walleye fishing. And it's pretty hard to beat the feel of that bite and actually getting to fight the fish on a little bit lighter tackle. Back in 2009 when we started tournament fishing, our very first tournament was on Ormond Dam out in Belfouche. And it was a very small tournament, but we went out. We jig fished in the morning, and we like jig fishing so much. At that time, I was pulling crankbaits with my jigging rods. I'd put a little slip weight on there and cast it out, and it'd be like 3 pumps, and that's how far out you had to go to catch walleye. So we were the only people trolling out there, and definitely the only ones trolling with spinning rods. So, but boy, did we ever hammer them! It was fun. I think we ended up in second place.
All right. Yeah, well, that's not a very big little. I've been out there, and there are actually some decent fish out there. And they got, they do a few tournaments a year, and I think it's getting a little bigger. Pretty much got there and Angostura, I think, right? Are the two reservoirs out there?
Yep.
Yeah.
2 walleye reservoirs.
Yeah, the 2 of the walleye. Belfouche is bigger than I thought it was. We went there. My wife did some photo stuff. I'm like, oh, this is pretty big. But buddy Kelly Major lives out there, and he cracks them. He gets them pretty good. Not a lot of big ones. He majorly sometimes get that mid-20, but a lot of that 16 to 18 inches. So,
yeah, there's always been a good class, even 18 to 20 inches out there. It's a lot of fun. That protected that class with the slot limit pretty much forever. And even this year, they dropped down to a 2-fish limit. Now you can have, I believe, 2 between 18 and 20, and maybe one of them can be over 20. But yeah, they've always, protected that class of fish, and they've always been plentiful out there. Even, the mid-range walleyes, the 23 to 26 inches, you can get into them pretty good out there sometimes. So,
yeah, well, that's nothing says there's not a lot of fishing pressure like when you can catch 25, 26 inches a lot. Unless you're Lake of the Woods where there just is a lot of them, but because you can't keep them. So,
yeah, so a little interesting fact about Ormond Dam. One of my buddies out there, he kind of taught me a lot I know about jig fishing, and his grandpa Jack Dick was his name, and his dad was Mike Dick. Well, one of the very first tournaments they had out on Ormond Dam, they ended up winning it, and they had over a 10-pound average. They had over 50 pounds for 5 fish, and they said when you first could start putting boats on there, because just not a lot of people fished it. It was just full of monster fish. And so it's had some pretty cool days back in the day, but now it's pretty hard to get a 10-pounder.
Yeah, I suppose I stocked it for a few years, and nobody knew about it, and it wasn't opened up yet. And when they finally opened it, oh, hey, look at this! There's a massive class of 8 to 10-pound fish. Yeah, anything like that nowadays isn't going to last long. So unless it's obviously the size of Erie or a large, massive reservoir like Lake Walleye, where that is where you got a good abundance of those. I know you spent some time out there in the spring, Justin. You've been ripping in some pretty big walleyes I've seen in the fall on Lake Walleye.
Yeah, Wahi's been amazing here, for a while now. A lot of big fish. It's just one of the bucket list destinations now. Went from after 2011 to barely could catch fish that you wanted to keep, and now the problem is how many trophies can you get in a day? But yeah, it's really amazing fishery. That's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back. I got busy this fall. Couldn't get up there. I went up there last fall. I missed a big fish bite because I didn't get there till late morning, and I only had the day to fish it. It was the same time Chemos was up there shooting that next bite show. Caught fish, nice. Just didn't get none of those big ones. And I talked to Gabe and New Everest in the morning when I got there, like 10 something on the water. Ran into him, and he's like, caught a 9 and 11 this morning. He's like, big fish bite's over. He goes, now we're just catching. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just catching 18 inches too. But yeah, trolling, pulling the lead core or the jig and wrap bite. They were both kind of going. That was a lead core day for sure. But Lake Hawaii, people, if you haven't been there, our state record was broke a couple years ago, basically within a week or 2 weeks apart from each other. I think it's 17 and 0.8 pounds or something now.
Yes.
And you're catching like 9 to, up to 13, 14 pounders like every day, at least. Like you said, how many trophies can you catch, right? 1, 2, or 3. Some guys are getting a few in a day. Some are getting none. But the probability is pretty good. No,
definitely.
It's an incredible fishery. It's just insane the amount of 8+ pound fish you can catch out there. Me and Justin have been fishing out there in the fall for probably almost 20 years. We've been, religiously going out there, and 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't very many boats that would be out there. But now with the technology we have and able to target these big fish, it's, more people are getting out there. But it's really incredible, just where fishing has come and how much easier it is to target these big fish. I think last year I had the best day of my life. I caught the 4 biggest walleyes I've ever caught in my life all in one day. So
yeah, that's
pretty hard.
That's remarkable. Are you seeing more guys scoping them out there, or still a lot of pulling lead?
Both.
Or trolling?
I would say a majority of people like to pull lead out there, but there's definitely guys, scoping, maybe about half and half. So
the ones that are looking truly just for those big trophies, probably.
Yeah.
Till the wind picks up, then they're dropping the lead core and going with the wind.
Yeah, it does seem like the trollers are the ones getting them big ones, though. But it won't be long, and the scoper's going to get, a super monster. So,
yeah, well, I got to get out there this fall. Maybe we'll all jump in and shoot a video or something. You guys got a lot more experience on that body of water than I do.
Yeah, definitely.
It's I don't know. Doesn't seem like it's super difficult in the fall to find them. Could be because there's so many boats out there, but. They're just, you kind of know where they are in that certain stretch of the river. It's a pretty long stretch, I guess. But like you said, Lauren, with the technology, run your side image, your 2D, or live scope, you can't hide. So
no, not anymore. They can't.
You can't hide. You've been doing these tournaments. That's what you said. 2009 is when you guys started kind of jumping into some tournaments. You guys, you fished the MWC together for a long time, right? Quite a few years. Yep. And had some really good luck. You did the NTC. Let's go back your MWC days. What was your first one you got into?
I don't really remember the first event we got into. I know the big first finish we had was we won in Lake Sharp. Oh, that was 2014. That was a real good season for us. I know we had some other top 10 finishes, and in that time frame.
It was 14 when that Sharp tournament when it snowed at practice and
yeah. Yep.
Okay, yeah. Yep, I fished that. Yeah, you guys had a 30-incher on day one?
Yep. Yeah. 2014 that was actually our first MWC tournament we ever
was
fished.
It? Okay. And you won it. Yeah. We didn't we fished we had a 30-incher at practice, not during the tournament, of course, but I had talked to somebody I think on one of the other podcasts talking about Sharp. That you guys got there was like 2 or 3 30-inchers caught, I think, in that tournament, wasn't there? 3?
Yep,
yeah,
3.
Yeah, there was ours was 30 inches, 11 pounds, 12 ounces. Mike Dorse had a 30-incher that was right at 10 pounds, and then Al Freidick and Clinton DeVere had a 29 and a quarter that was 11 pounds even. And that was all on the same day. That was all the first day of the event.
First day.
Definitely was, a lot of luck involved, but yeah, when I seen that fish, I was just like, no way. It's not
well,
real.
we only get two overs here in South Dakota, over 20 inches. I mean, there's no question that thing's going in your box, but I mean, it's better to have that, than a 21 incher where you're like, and
Yeah.
I mean, even a 5 pounder typically, and around these in these tournaments, you're getting a box, unless you're at Lake Walleye. And then it's like, no, I pretty much need that 8+ pounder because I can win the tournament on 2 of these, or I can get 20 pounds on 2 fish almost.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it was amazing in that NTC, some of them guys were throwing back 8 pounders, looking for 10+ pounders,
Yeah, that's a little risky.
The quality of the fish.
Yeah, that's huge. So that's MWC. That's back in 14. I mean, you've been all over the places there with the doubles. You ever do the Spring Valley one? I know they just fished that here yesterday, I think, wrapped up. You're not missing out unless you really like to fish in crappy conditions. So
seems like it's usually pretty rough weather down there most of the time.
But it sounds like they're getting more walleye versus sauger. Still sauger fest, but it's a river bite. Cold, dirty, so a little slow, not so much. I think you get up near the dam, you can pitch some jigs and do some good up there. But we're talking Lake Sharp. This is where we dove into it. All right, we'll just kind of cover it. Are you jumping in the NWT at Lake Sharp?
Yeah.
Both of you?
Yep.
You're all in, and Jess, you're coming off your hot NWT finish up at Lake Sakakawea. You got second?
Third.
Third?
Yep.
Third. Who the hell? Oh, right. Dewey moved up to first. You and Springle or Nussbaum. Nussbaum was second. Okay, I thought he got third and you got second for some reason.
Springle was fourth.
Fourth, got it.
Yeah.
Good event, awesome lake, awesome fishery. Different, a lot of people want to compare it to Walleye, but I think fish is a lot different than a Walleye personally, but you spend more time on there.
Yeah, I did too. That was my first time ever up on Lake Sakakawea, so I was really just learning it while I was out there. And for me, the less history, it seems like the better I do in a lot of these tournaments. So it played right into.
Nope, the same for me on Sakakawea. First time I was there, I got fourth by 1/100th of a pound. So yeah, same deal.
Yeah. So it played right in well to me just going out and being able to fish and stuff. So. That was real good. So Sharp's coming up. You're both in it. We won't divulge too much and won't give all these guys that are coming from their states any pointers of it. But it's Sharp. It's spring. It's going to be good fishing. You're going to catch fish. And obviously the key to these is the 2 overs. And if you could get a real big over, which you did, and it was proven in that MWC grant, that was 10, 11 years ago. There's some big fish that live there. I haven't fished it maybe twice since that tournament, and just for a couple hours at a time because I was in town for something and brought the boat, but still caught them. Not 30 inchers, however. Is it still fishing like that, or are we still? Is it? I'm reading some of the GFP reports. Looks like they're always kind of scattered all over the place. But I think the probability of a few big fish being caught is certainly there. That place has some big fish.
Yeah, I'd agree. The last few years, there's definitely guys pulling out them big fish still. There's not many though. That's the thing. It's definitely going to take some luck to get that big kicker like that. I think a guy, could consistently maybe get an over, maybe 2 a day down there, but it's going to be tough. I think it's going to play out a lot like that Chamberlain event a few years back, where if you can find some pre-spawn fish or just, something like that, some heavier fish, I think that'll go a long ways, and, just hope and pray you could nail a kicker, big one. So,
yeah, we're late April. I think the spawn's going to be over. There'll still be some stragglers. It's tough to say. I mean, that's usually kind of right when it's maybe in the peak of it or just coming off the peak a little bit. I'm already seeing quite a few of them milking and stuff out of Chamberlain, and we're not even into April yet. So, but there's also a lot of factors that go into that stuff, and it's still going to happen kind of when it happens. But 12 to 14 pounds a day, if you can get some pre-spawners, and that's with a minimal over, I think you're going to probably be in it. Kind of like Chamberlain, Cedar Shores tournament.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. It's definitely going to be, I feel like, really tight weights. You know, a few ounces is going to separate you from a lot of places. One thing I like about it is I feel like you can really jump back in one day in an event like this. You could throw a big bag up, follow it up with a mediocre bag, and do real well. It's not one of them events where if you get behind the curve the first day, you're out of it. It's definitely a little bit of different strategy. I feel you can go into tournaments like that. You know, the second day you still have a chance.
Especially if you pick up those 10-pounders. I mean, you can have a crappy 8-pound first day and just bring in your 5, 17, and 19-inch fish, males, and be like, it's just what I got, you know, and I would expect catch plenty of them as long as the weather's good. But then the next day, bam, you've seen 20-pound bags come out of Cedar Shores tournament at Chamberlain.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's all of a sudden, it's like, where'd this guy come from? You know? Now, when you get down on the first day, I'm always like, I'm not worried about it because he won't do it again tomorrow. And quite often that's what happens. That guy drops, you know, that team drops a lot. But once in a while it does. And they get another 8-pounder. You're like, all right, touche. If you do that, you do deserve to win. So hats off to you.
Yeah.
So, but they just dropped that bridge the other day. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Did they? I'm assuming they took that out. They had some cranes out there, or we just got a whole bunch of new shit obstacles to dodge. Or what?
No,
we got some new obstacles.
New fish structure. We were actually just out there fishing yesterday, and everything is still laying in the water. There's bridge parts sticking out, and so guys are gonna really have to be careful. And it's not,
it's not that deep right there.
Yeah, no, it's not deep at all, and in areas and. Yeah, it's not marked very well. There's like a slow buoy, you know. So, but guys will figure it out quick. I think, you know.
Well, last time I fished there and by that bridge, I mean it was like 15 to 17 foot deep, maybe deeper, but I could see 15 feet deep. I mean, I could see the walleye around the bridge columns. So,
yeah, that's one unique thing about that reservoir. It's pretty cool. I've seen walleye down in 19 feet, you know, swaying on the jig there, and it's kind of an experience you don't get very often.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you get a little further downriver or past the Bad River area, the water's going to dirty up quite a bit. But that first, I don't know, what is that, 3 miles maybe or 4 from the dam?
To the Bad River. Yeah, 5 maybe.
5. I mean, it's some pretty clean water. But Chamberlain, the same way. You get up there near the dam where you got that power plant kicking all that stuff out. That water's cold and clean.
Yep.
But it tends to hold a lot of fish early in the year.
That's where my confidence is.
That's where I'm pretty sure all those 30 inches probably came from at that tournament. So that'll be a fun one. I'm looking forward. I'm just biting at the bit to go fish a tournament right now because this last week sucked, but I've been on the water starting tomorrow, and most of the whole next week I'll be out almost every day and guiding and what have you. So pretty pumped up and really getting tired of watching all these bass tournaments on TV and ready to go. You know, I'm sure you guys, like you said, get the boat ready. You've been out. I know, Lauren, you been out yet, Justin?
Yeah. I've got a new boat this year, so most of my trip's been just trying to get them hours on the motor. But we got 20 hours on yesterday, so mission complete. It's ready to get into fish mode now. So.
Yeah, it's go time, and Cedar Shores tournament's coming up for the both of us here. I think they're 3 weeks away or something like that for that. So, and maybe we'll get some good weather this year. Doubt it.
That would be nice. Get the wind to stop blowing too. I don't know if that ever really truly happens in this state, but keep it under 30.
Right, for us, guys, you and myself that love the jig, we would really like to not have to have these 30-mile-an-hour winds or having to go just anchor down in a spot all day and work it. But fishing there's been really good this spring. Been a lot of females, been a good year class again. The last couple of years, I thought it was kind of down a little bit. It wasn't great. Granted, we had a lot of crappy weather, but this year's shaping up to be pretty good again. So.
Yeah, I watched the Game Fishing Parks report about it, and a lot of last year was just chalked up as overabundance of bait. Why
I would agree. We didn't have any ice. We had very little ice, and that a lot of them shad didn't die. So
yeah. So I'm hoping to see more fish this year. It was tough. There was days out there that were tough finding fish and getting them to bite, and so I was a little worried the reservoir was going downhill, but it's not, according to the studies. So that's good.
Yeah, us tournament guys are getting a lot of flack from a lot of the locals out there and around it. There's so many tournaments on that body of water, it's killing it. I kept saying there is, and unfortunately, there are kill tournaments in South Dakota after 1st of June. But I'm shaking my head too, Jess. No, that place it's a pretty damn healthy fishery, and there's a lot of fish, and it's big, so there's a lot of places they can hide.
Yeah, it's a walleye factory. It always has been, and in my opinion, it's always going.
And if you look at that GFP report, the catch rate, I mean, a lot of people quit fishing last year on the lower end because they weren't catching any. But the amount of fish that was taken out, it was like tens of thousands was it. And I'm like, that's it? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, there's millions. There's not hundreds of millions like Erie, but there are tens of millions of fish in there, of walleye. And you're talking about tens of, literally like 10 to 20. It wasn't a very big number. I'm like, that's all? You think that was caught? I'm like, that's not. Allen's Guide Service is going to take a couple thousand of them out just in, this first month out of just the Chamberlain area, right? I mean, and that's good on them. They're out there fishing. They got a dozen guide boats out and they're catching fish. So that's just a testament of year after year, this place putting them out. Like you said, it's a walleye factory. So I know I've been out there 3 or 4 times, few guide trips, limits every time. And I haven't caught one under 15 inches yet.
That's awesome.
Very good.
Which
they're looking healthy too, aren't they, this year?
Yeah. Had some 18s that I thought were probably females. Cleaned them, and that was just fat, just males with fat. So
very good.
Yeah, a lot of guys are catching some 20 to 22s. You had your class of those 19 and those perfect slots. Those 19 3/4-inch females, seems to be a lot of those, and some really healthy 18s. So, but like you said earlier, Justin, just like the Sharp tournament, these Missouri River tournaments where we get these 1/20 or 2 if you're in a team situation, it's ounces. A half a pound can drop you 10 spots almost. I mean, it sucks, but it's tournament fishing. It sucks, but it's good. It's every ounce counts. So finding those fatter fish, or in this case, the pre-spawners, can make a world of difference.
A little bit about some high performance products that I use, and I'm pretty sure you're going to love it too. It's the Seaguar Smackdown braid. There's 3 things about this thin diameter braid that I just absolutely love. 1, it's tough as nails. 2, longest casting, smoothest braid I've ever used. The 8-strand braid, tubular form, just comes off those reels super smooth, long cast. It doesn't make a lot of noise. It's awesome. And 3, it's super sensitive. No matter what kind of lure or jig I'm throwing out there, I can tell. I've grass, weeds, rocks, sand bottom, I can feel it all right through there into my rod. The stuff is extremely sensitive. So Smackdown comes in 2 colors, high vis and stealth gray. Get yourself some of this stuff and you're gonna get yourself some more of these. Check them out at seaguar.com.
Yeah, I don't know. I weigh them all. I got the Bubba scale. You're going to need a balance beam if you're coming out here. Typically, we'll keep 7 or 8 in a box. You're going to weigh in your 5. So theoretically, you're going to catch 5 unders and then leave those 2 other spots for your 2 overs. So if you don't catch them, at least you got your limit of, what have you. And 8's even better. That's more to play with. And the good thing is we're early in the season on both these tournaments to where we get to release these fish because, there's probably going to be some pre-spawners, left when we get them back out there to lay those eggs. So you fished them both now, Jess. You did an NWT too, right, Lauren, on the Chamberlain one, right? We went out of there.
Yeah, I think it was 2021, I believe.
Yeah, 2021.
Yeah.
So you both have experience in both of them. What's kind of give and takes, good on one, bad on one? Which one do you prefer and why?
I guess for me, it's hard to get away from liking to fish the team events, especially with my brother. It's a lot of fun, a little less work because you got somebody there to help you the entire time. And then you're sharing the experience with somebody else as well. From a career standpoint, if you want to move up in the industry and take it to the next step, it's through the MWT. You gotta make that leap, and that's kind of what intrigued me with it. I've always had that dream of, the opportunity was there to become full-time fishermen. So that's where I started dabbling with the NWC. It's a different format. Definitely takes a little more getting used to. You got to prepare different. A lot of it's just on shoulders. Something I like that aspect of it. Decision making is a little bit different than team fishing. But then also at the same time, it comes back the other direction when you've ran through all your scenarios and you're looking for a new scenario and team partner there to help you make that decision. So, I like both formats, team fishing and pro co setup. So,
Lauren, how about you?
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing Justin kind of going in and out. Are you having any issues with that?
Just kind of stay a little closer. Every time you lean back when you talk,
okay.
Then it goes from like hearing you crystal clear to nothing almost. I can fix some of it, but
yeah, I couldn't agree more with Justin. I definitely like the team event, that side of it, because it's fun. It's not as much work, and well, I mean, it is a lot of work, but when you're out there by yourself, it's different. So it's nice having another guy that knows a lot about fishing and bouncing ideas off each other. Versus being the NWT, you can't really bounce your ideas off the show because they might be a deer hunter, or something else. So, I definitely like the MWC. It's, for me, it's hard to get the time to really do a lot of these events to be able to fish full time. I'd love to, but, so I got to kind of pick and choose, and usually I like to pick events that are kind of close, and I'd like to do more NWT events. I had a really good time at the one I did fish. I definitely underestimated the competition. I knew it was going to be tough, but I had 4 small overs in 2 days. I thought I was going to be pretty good, but it wasn't good. Not even
nope.
So, it's like I've kind of been preparing myself for, going back into it and just being able to shoot for the stars a little bit more and not having to release, fish that you wish you could have kept. And, so yeah, with not much experience in the NWT so far, my opinion on it is I really like it. I wish I could do more of them. And hopefully someday I'll be able to. So,
well, it doesn't get any cheaper. So it's,
Nope.
And it's a lot of time, commitment off work, away from home and family. And I mean, you guys know it. And you have a unique, I mean, there's a handful of, father, sons or brother teams out there, but the team circuit, the biggest hurdle is the team, right? Mm-hmm. It's who's in charge, whose boat, but you guys have been fishing together for years. So it's just another day of fishing. I'm sure you still bitch and bicker at each other and knock each other upside the head once in a while because you're brothers. And it might be a little.
We've gotten better as we've gotten older.
Right. But it's kind of like, I'm sure you're probably actually communicating less because you know what the other one is thinking or doing or wants to do. And you got it dialed in versus guys are rotating, finding new partners every year, trying to get that thing to work. And it's kind of a give and take and a tug where one guy wants to do one thing, one other guy wants to do the other. And, it's just finding that chemistry to work is really tricky with the team circuit. So you guys have that, and it's probably what credits to a lot of your success in MWC, going forward with it. Like you said, Lauren, NWT, you're on your own still. You got to figure it out. Now you can work together out, at the practice and what have you, but come tournament day, you're still on your own. And when things change, because they will, right? You have a plan. It's like if we all had a plan written down on a piece of paper, we'd be smart just to crumble it up before takeoff and drop it in the lake and take off, right? Because it's not going to work.
No.
Sometimes it does, and those are those epic days when you roll in and it's like, bam, okay, they're right where I left them and they're still biting. But more often than not, it's like, where'd they go?
Yeah,
especially on these rivers.
Right. Or you roll in there and they're like, oh, there's 15 other boats here that had the same idea, and it's like, this is not going to work for any of us now. So that, that sucks. But NTC, I think you guys both got in. You guys fishing together?
Yep.
All right. That was, we got everybody in. So we're all signed up, register. And I coming off last year with how Lake Francis Case was fishing, it was looking like this is going to be a horrible NTC coming up for this year. Like you're talking 250 boats probably, when there was tournaments last summer where there were like 2 or 3 fish being caught, and like you said, there was the massive amount of bait that they fed all, early spring, and they just didn't need to buy what we were selling.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking there wouldn't be no fish left after this upcoming NTC, by the looks of it last year with the, the amount of fish that you could find was not the same as the years before.
Nope.
You've seen a lot more fish the years before, but there's definitely some changes going on with the reservoir, and fish are happening, they're inhabiting different areas now and stuff. So it's not everything's the same as it used to be. And it could be totally different this year, with these reservoirs, it's never the same. One year they might like one color, or whatever. But, yeah, I feel like this year it's going to be, it's going to be a good turnout. I think there's going to be a lot of fish caught, and I think a lot of people, are going to figure out the bite and be able to at least catch fish and stuff. And some people might struggle that aren't familiar with our reservoirs and stuff. But all in all, I'm really excited to get out there and fish it because it's pretty much my backyard now. So
yeah, you guys have both guided on that reservoir for a long time. You kind of know it like the back of your hand, but that could be a problem too. And just kind of like you alluded to, right, Joseph, like going to Skakwe, I've never been there. I just got to go fish. So there's a little, and I kind of feel the same way. I like going somewhere new because then you got to go back old school and do what right, and pattern and versus just like, and I think that's why a lot of guys struggled last year because they just went and they pulled trees. And they went, oh, they're not biting or they're not here. I guess they're all gone. And they packed up and went home where it's like, and you alluded to it, Lord, the systems are changing due to flows and zebra mussels and vegetation and clarity and all that. So it can be an advantage to some people that have never been here because they can stumble into something.
Yeah.
I think it'll be one at a complete doing something different that pretty much in a place that nobody else really is.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to have to think outside the box.
Absolutely.
Because the water's pretty clean and you're going to deal with a lot of boats, a lot of pressure.
Yep.
Which that place is used to, but this is a little extreme when you're talking 250 some boats in a day and for a week, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty good bays and coves there, but you're not hiding from anybody.
No, there's not a lot of big creeks to go back into where people won't see you and stuff like that, so you're going to be visible, and so the best way, to hide yourself, I guess, is just don't throw your net in the air, probably.
Right. Don't wave the big pink or green flags around. So,
yeah.
It will be fun. I'm looking forward to that one. I think I would expect 250. I think 300 is a cap on it. I think Jeff said I had him on here that when they do hit 300, like Erie last year, I think they ended up at 280 because just within that last week or two, things happen and teams drop out or fall out. And at that point, you're not backfilling them. So I don't expect it to be 280. I'm guessing around 250, and that's fine. That's plenty. I think the payout pot stays the same with it. So you guys have fished into NTC before, done well, if I recall. Was that Milford Lake?
Yeah.
Tell us about that
Milford
one.
Lake, Kansas.
Yep. I love that place, actually. A lot of people that listen probably have never been there, but it's a phenomenal fishery.
Yeah, it was a blast pre-fishing there. That's been one of my favorite tournaments I've ever fished. It was just very unique. All the people up there were, great hospitality, and it's just something different too. All the flooded structure. There's I think one or two small towns that got flooded out, so you're fishing these old roads,
Wakefield and Milford. Yep.
It was really neat, and we went over with just an open mind, and we found where the winning fish were. Yeah, we were just two bites short, and it was a really cool experience. Our boat, we blow a lower unit on day 3, so we ended up getting almost a 4-hour late start. We had to kick our motor back in, switch boats, go back out. It was a struggle to keep our minds in it, but we did. And last hour or so, I think we ended up pulling all of our fish that we weighed for the 3rd day, which was just amazing. So it's definitely an experience of a lifetime, and something I'll never forget.
Did you get into the wipers down there?
Yeah.
None of the big ones, but
yeah, no big ones, but man, they're the meanest fish I have ever handled in my life. I love them. Yeah, they fight. I was like, oh man, I got like a 5-pound walleye on here, and get it up to the boat, and it's like a 14-inch wiper. And then I go to take it off, and it's just eyeballing me every time I try to get my hand over by it. It stab me with its fin and stab me again. Finally, I just had to stomp on the damn thing and pull the lure out, because they're aggressive. They're mean, but yeah, I couldn't imagine catching like a 14-pounder or something,
1410's the biggest one I ever caught on a topwater.
Oh,
and
geez, yeah.
I haven't caught very few less than 5 pounds, and that lake is full of them, and the guides chase them there, and they're an absolute blast. If you don't know what a wiper is, folks, it's a hybrid of a striper and a white bass. And it's like a white bass on steroids, more or less. That's what they look a little bit more like. But they get a lot bigger. I mean, they get up to 20 pounds. They don't reproduce. These are stocked, but they're just super aggressive, super schooling fish. It's like a white bass. So when you find them, you can just get them. And if you can net some live shad and throw those out there on a jig, you're going to have a heyday. Throw a plastic. It usually doesn't even matter if you find that schooling pile of them, or if they're even chased, follow the birds. Whatever you throw out there, they hammer it and hang on. I've seen them pull a guy off the boat into the lake, seeing the same boat break his rod because he was keeping it, and it got straight underneath the boat, and it was a bass rod, and it went under, and it snapped his rod. And it wasn't 10 minutes later, the same guy got pulled in because he wasn't letting go. This time he slipped and he fell right in. There was a guide boat, another boat tied up, and I was on this point. This is at Milford Lake, and the guide's big dude, like never got out of his chair. He had a center console, but they must have went out and thrown a cast net and caught some shad, and he had a big dip net, and he just kept dipping it and handing it to the guys, and they had a bass boat tied up to his boat, the guide boat. So he had like 8 guys. So that boat's full and his boat's full, and he's just handing them bait, and they're just throwing it. And they're all just ripping in 5 to 8 pound wipers. And I sat back and watched it for a while until they left. And I went over and caught a few, and then that school was gone. That was it. It was over. But they did that for a good half hour, and it was hilarious. But yeah, a lot of those Kansas and Nebraska reservoirs are loaded with those wipers, and some of them they're kind of taken over, but super aggressive fish and super fun. And yeah, you're going to catch them if you're walleye fishing, and sucks in a walleye tournament but you can usually tell pretty quick because they are, they peel line and they're out of there.
Yeah, when you see your lead core going the same direction you're trolling, you know you got one of them on.
yeah, they'll get swim toward you fast. It doesn't. When if you're trolling, your rod's bouncing a ton. That's when I'm always like, that's a white bass. Now, how do you know? I'm like, because the walleye goes like this. Right, it doesn't want to come, and a white bass wiper hits it, and then it starts swimming and darting, and your rod's bouncing like crazy.
Yeah.
Things you just learn over time, because we're all old and been doing this forever, and we got a pretty good clue of what's happening on the other end of the line. Oh, well, good. We got another NTC coming up, obviously, here in June. You got the MWC and into April. We got Cedar Shores the 1st of April. It's just, man, we're all ready to go. You got a new Ranger. Is that what you got, Justin?
Yep. 621 Pro with the Mercury V10 on there. So super
400.
Yeah, 400. Yep. Super excited about it. It's first 621 I've owned. So liking it. Went with the bubble windshields this time. So I was a little nervous at first, but it only took about one trip, and I was like, man, why have I been fishing a windshield for so many years?
Oh, I've drove the bubbles and it was cold, and I'm like, never, no, I'm not doing it. But as a guide, I want my people, where I spend most of my time, I want them a little more comfortable. But I totally get if I just fish tournaments, I'd have a bubble. Totally. One less thing to deal with is those windshields. But I got my ZV21 should be here. Sounds like any day. It's waiting on its V10 right now, I think, is what they're waiting on. So hopefully have that here by probably not Cedar Shores, but for sure the Lake Sharp tournament, hopefully. So where are you guys have done all these different tournaments, all this stuff, a lot of experience. Where do you see our tournament circuits moving, or what do you think we can do to make them better? Or is the tournament circuit world great? I mean, seems to be a hell of a lot of them out there, not top tier ones, but just a lot of tournaments in general.
Yeah. Or go ahead, Justin, if you want to start.
Yeah, I mean, as few tournaments as I fish a year, it's really hard to have that strong of an opinion. One that I would have is I wouldn't mind seeing some of these bigger tournaments kind of restrict some of the pre-fish and even the playing field out a little bit. Just, I feel like you could get more average guys to want to show up and maybe grow some of the fields if they knew that, hey, I can take a week off and be competitive versus, I mean, some of these you got to 10, 12 days with travel time and just to keep up with the rest of the crowd. That's a lot of commitment when you got a family and jobs and all of that. And I think it would go a long ways too, even competition wise. You see a lot of the way the bass circuits are ran and stuff like that. I feel like if we could bring a little bit more of that into some of our bigger circuits,
get
that would be
4.5 days, Saturday to Wednesday.
Yeah. Yep. Put some sort of restriction on some of that stuff. I understand with all the guiding and stuff like that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you can't fish for so many days prior, but there has to be some sort of way to level it out a little bit. Give your average angle set to want to jump in more of these events. And I mean, because for me, that's one of the biggest reasons why it's time, and if I knew that I could go up and everybody only had 3 days to pre-fish and then our 2-day tournament, that would make it a lot more appealing to me versus the other scenario is I mean, 4 or 5 days, you're kind of on the lower end of what most of the guys are pre-fishing. I mean, a lot of these guys they're getting there the Wednesday, before, sometimes the Tuesday before, and they can sit a blow day out where when you get up there and you're short-handed on the days you can fish, you have to fish them days.
And you're self-employed like me, so you're not getting paid vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But at the same time, I understand it's the NWT is a professional trail, and there is a handful of guys that that's what they do full time, do it for a living, and I respect it's their circuit, so I'm not going to have a strong opinion on it either.
Well,
way. But I do feel that that would be one thing if I could change anything or do anything different, is I'd put a few more restrictions out there just to kind of level the playing field for a lot of different groups of people, just like what bass fishing does,
Yep. Well, you're not alone. From the pros in a meeting we did have with 40 or 38 that showed up, I think it was 100% of us agreed with what you just said. Let's shrink this down to Saturday to Wednesday at noon, or even less, whatever, 4.5 days. That's it. And if it's got to be 2 weeks off limits prior, that's fine. The way around that for the guides is if you put boundaries on a system instead of 107 miles of a reservoir or Erie or whatever, if 30 miles this way, that way, that's a big area still. And most of these places are allowing someone to take off O'Connell and go to, Little Bay to Knock or something, put these little restrictions in it. Those guides can just guide outside of those areas if need be. But the reality is there's not a ton of guides that are getting into the tournaments probably so much anymore. And I get it as a guide because I got guaranteed money here or a gamble plus taking all these, 5, 6, 7, 8 days off to practice. So I think that's a good point. I would say at least 90% of the other pros that fish, all of them or have been doing it, in and out and would like to do more of them would probably, I think that's exactly right. You would get more locals to jump in, you'd get other guys to jump in but until we're at that level to where, okay, we're limited to 100 anglers and that's that. And it's these 100 anglers because they qualified or they rolled over or whatever it is. I just don't foresee them putting a whole lot of restrictions on there, but I think that's one that would actually help increase the number of participants because you're going to get
I do too.
more locals
I really
jumping
do
in.
too.
And the more people in it, the higher the payouts. So, I mean, to me, it's whatever. It's 100 boats or 300 boats. I don't care. I mean, the problem with a large amount of boats is fishing pressure and just it takes 4 hours to weigh in and 4 hours to launch. And that kind of stuff sucks. But to me, it's mano a mano. It's you versus the fish. I don't care how many other people are, you're going against. So,
yeah.
And like I said, boundaries is kind of a good way to get around it. These are things we've all discussed in our meetings with NWT before. And so they know the opinions and have it, but they're juggling so many other things, trying to make the, what is the right decision or how do we see it? And I think each year they learn something new. And if numbers are maybe dropping, then they got to look at that and be like, all right, how do we get this back up? And I think you hit it on the nail on the head right there, because that's what you do, right? So always hit those nails and that's it. Limit those days. That's one of the many kind of things I think that you can adjust that doesn't hinder anybody. Maybe the community a little bit because people aren't spending as much time and money in that community. But if you get more numbers, then that's going to kind of wash that out, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Your thoughts, Lauren?
Oh, no, that all makes sense. I haven't really thought too much about it. I do like, like on Sakakawea, how they allowed the fish to be released and stuff. And, I definitely wouldn't complain if South Dakota would allow more of these fish to be released, not that it's super detrimental to our systems, these tournaments and stuff, but I think it would allow for more of them to happen with less effect on the reservoirs. Outside of that, there's, the bass world, they kind of got all the things going on and whether, I don't know if we have enough anglers to do stuff like that, like to, maybe break it into divisions or something. Because you see when these tournaments are all out east, all them guys out east, they all show up to those ones, but only the guys that are fishing the circuit full time come out to these tournaments out west. But a lot of times we get a pretty good turnout with our local anglers that are close enough to fish it, so I don't know what to really think if it would ever go that route, like whether there'd be two divisions and then they work to a championship or how that would work. But, something to get all of the anglers involved. And right now with gas and travel, it costs a lot of money, everybody's got to make a living and if you're not doing it full time on the NWT, then it's becomes a little bit more of a headache to make these tournaments happen to fish the full circuit,
We had some discussion on the divisional thing, and I like that concept too. It's just like you said, do we have enough anglers? And then it becomes the directors, the tournament, the people that got to put on the tournaments. They already don't have enough manpower because they're doing bass and the Walleye Federation is running all these things, NTC. So they're traveling all over. So to add more to it, it wouldn't work unless there was a different management system or something. But I think that's a good way to help, kind of like bass has opens and then they work their way up to elites type deal. Or if you had, it's kind of, we don't have a qualifying system basically to get you to the top tier, which we like to call the NWT, but they're really all professional level circuits. There's professional, MWC, professional NTC stuff is made for grassroots, but you're seeing more guys like that are NWT guys getting into it because the payouts are worth, they're better. And you got to, like me, I look at them, they got to be 10,000 or above, because if you're going to take a couple of days off work, it's got to make sense. And now you're doing the team circuit. So now you're splitting that, right? So, versus NWT where you got two different payouts for the pro and the co. Yeah, all good ideas. And a lot of it always comes down to money is what it's all about, right? But if we get more anglers involved, payouts go up. There's more social viewership going on because more people are doing things, more opportunities. You get more eyes on the tournament circuit as a whole. Then the revenue sharing can come for the ownership or the management company has something to sell, to non-endemic or endemic sponsors, because chasing dollars in the fishing industry is a head scratcher and a constant, never-ending game, pretty much. So you guys have some sponsors, you know how it is. So you've been, with a few of them for a long time, and hang on to them dearly.
Yeah.
They play a pretty important part. So, what you going to get out? So, like I said, we got about 3 weeks till Cedar Shores tournament. You said something, Lauren. I was going to touch on it, and I should have wrote it down. Divisional. I can't remember. It was good. I forgot it. Damn it. So. Anyway, you gotta be able to get out a few more times before the first tournament.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get on sharp a few more times, and I probably won't do much pre-fishing for Cedar Shore until just before the event. The nice thing with being teamed up there, Justin and I can split up. I can fish my boat down here, and he can fish his boat up by the dam, or vice versa. Cover a little more water that way. So. I love sharp, man. It's probably my favorite stretch of the river, outside of catching big fish on a wahi. But
right.
There's just something about sharp. It fishes different than Chamberlain, but man, it's fun. It's, it's a little smaller, a little more, spot on spot stuff. So yeah, I just want to get out there, man. I'm excited. I'm ready.
Yeah, that one.
You're started.
That one is fun, and you're right. It does fish a little different, and it's in 2014 when we were there, it fished real small. Just half of it was still frozen, right? If I recall, yeah. You weren't going more than 25 miles, maybe. I don't think I went past like Farm Island area, but 90% of us were fishing in the upper portion of it. So
nature put its own boundaries on that one.
Yeah, which was perfectly fine with me, but that's not the case because I'm sure it's open and it's docks, everything are in a plat. They're catching fish. So I think Francis Case is 90% open, maybe 100% open by now with the wind this week.
Yeah, down here they're all opened up now. I guess I don't know as far down as North Shore, but as far as last week, they were putting West Shore boat ramp in, Snake Creek, Platte Creek. I'm sure Peace Creek's going in soon. So there's already guys out here catching limits of fish on, the lower end of the lake. So I'd like to get out here too, but.
Yeah, it just sucks for Cedar Shores and they don't have fuel on the water no more. If you're running down there, I guess you can fill up there. Of course, you have the new boat and the new ZV-21's got 80-gallon fuel tanks, so not a problem. The one advantage of having that, besides the price tag at the pump when you have to fill it up. It's one of those boats you put half a tank in all year long until you need it, until tournament days, if even, because you obviously don't want to haul 80 gallons around, and that's a lot of weight to slow you down unless you need it. So, that's the cool thing is, hey, I need it for this long run. I got it. I think a lot of us feel like we just have to fill them up. But I already told Scott, my other guy, I'm like, you don't need to keep that thing topped off because you're going to get worse gas mileage. You're going to go slower. Just kind of put in 20, 30 gallons and don't forget how much you put in it and keep it cool. But we all know those big fish live down south, and that's why you hope for good weather at Chamberlain, right? Cedar Shores tournament, so you can not have to beat the hell out of yourself. But then again, a lot of big fish been caught within, I don't know, a quarter mile of the boat launch. So
that's right. Yeah. They're a little more spread out on that system on Francis Case, good local population down south, and up north always gets pretty hot,
Yeah, and there's obviously some big fish right there in town always. There's been, I don't know how many times, between the Red River and town, there's 10-pounders caught. And you're like, damn it, you went 44 miles south and got 22 inchers.
Yeah.
Which can go a long ways in these tournaments. So don't pass them up, but don't overlook it. But yeah, that one I like to stay close if possible, but yeah, this year's going to be one of those. Going to have to go spend some time with you on the south side of it down there, I think, and do a little exploring. So
yeah, come up anytime.
Get away from the crowds, of course, too. So
I don't know where you do that up here, but
yeah. You go south, it gets a little less crowded in the spring when you go south, but still, yeah. Chamberlain's been a hot spot. So
this time of year, it's pretty quiet down there. But come, end of May through June,
it's the hot spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and rightfully so. The place is phenomenal. But I'm gonna hit Lewis and Clark tomorrow and try to find some of these pre-spawners. We usually don't even fish it till May because we feel all those fish go upriver. Heading up towards Fort Randall and Santee area and are spawning. But like for instance, the reservoir's changed a ton in the last few years because of zebra mussels, and I'm pretty confident there's a large spawning population that's staying in the lake because it's clean. Because I caught them the 1st of May last year. And these are post-spawn, a lot of 20-plus inchers, and they were all post-spawn and already very healthy. So I'm like, there's no way these fish went 40 miles, and spawned and already came back and are this big. And you can tell usually the color of those fish, whether they went upriver or not. They change pretty quick, but they lighten up a lot when they go up, until they get way up past Niobrara. The water gets clean, then they kind of green up. But if they're in that Santee to west side of Lewis and Clark, they're going to be pretty dirty water colored. They get kind of palish, kind of soft white, and then as they get east, that water's cleaner and they get nice. They get the good color back. So just things you notice from spending probably way too much time on the water, I guess. But I don't know if there is such thing. So.
Yeah, no, probably not.
All right, we've been we've been chit chatting for about an hour. I'll let you guys get back to it. We will see you on the water here soon. What you guys got? Any little nuggets to leave for these listeners to help them on their spring walleye bite?
Oh, I guess one thing I always keep in my mind is from a Johnny Candle seminar I went to a long time ago was take the words always and never out of your vocabulary. And to this day, that's something that's always stuck with me. It's I like it.
It's good. And you couldn't be, the only time you want to use them right now in these river tournaments is that you're always in it and you're never out of it. Otherwise, don't use them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I didn't come up with much of a nugget, I guess, but maybe for some new anglers kind of just getting started maybe or something, just use a minnow and work it slow, be patient and try to get the fish to bite.
That is a jig fisherman's tip right there, is use a minnow slow. Keyword slow for this early spring fishing bite. I see so many guys out there now whipping it and already like doing this stuff. I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
It brings a whole new definition to the word slow. I'll put that out there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm pretty methodical with it. And it's like, I'm like, it's just this, and almost every cast sometimes I'm like, oh, missed one, or I got one. They're like, what the hell? I'm like, I'm not even, it's like this, you'll pop, mix it up once in a while, or especially if you got one that's kind of, but it's this, I've put out a ton of videos lately of saying it's so methodical. These fish's water's 40 degrees and you need that medium light rod so you can let them load it, because you'll feel it and you're just kind of maybe pulling it away or giving it, and you just kind of let it have it. Now the plastics you can obviously get a little more aggressive with, and if they're going, and they'll hit that a lot harder. But you start doing this with your minnows, you're just ripping them off because they're hitting them. They're just short striking them, but you got to let them, get it and feed it. And that can change from the morning to the afternoon, as when that water warms up too, on how aggressive they get. But absolutely. I agree 100%. Early spring is you can't go too slow. So
no.
Period. I mean, how many times do you just let it sit there? And then when you're about to jig it, you're like, oh, there's one on it. And so not moving it is pretty slow.
So. Yeah. Sometimes the laziest person in the spring turns out to be the best fisherman.
Yep. This is true. You put the hungover guy in the back and say, those are rod holders. Just put your rod in there sometimes and And you're like, man, he's catching the hell out of it. I've said it 100 times, and I've learned that from a Johnny Candle seminar years ago, is pay attention to what's going on in your boat. You know, and you guys guide, you know how it is when you got the kid, it's over here cracking them, or mom's catching them because she keeps sitting her rod down to grab a soda, and every time she sits it down, they bite. You know, dad's over here doing this and not getting touched. And you're like, what were you doing when you caught it? She's like, I wasn't doing nothing, man. I was grabbing a drink. So doing nothing was what the fish wanted. So slow it down, or vice versa. The kids, you know, all over hell and going fast as crap, but they're catching them. All right. Well, I guess we need to speed up. So pay attention to what's going on. So, yep. All right, guys, we will see you soon. Thanks for joining us today. Good stuff. We got a couple big three. We'll be in 3 tournaments together this year for sure. So Cedar Shores, Sharp, and NTC. So I will see you at all 3 of those. Look forward to it. Always enjoy chatting with you guys. Folks, these are a couple of the South Dakota's hottest sticks when it comes to fishing these walleyes in these rivers. And check them out, Skipper Brothers. You guys are guiding out there.
Yep.
Yeah, skipperbrosguiding.com or Skipper Bros Guiding on Facebook. You can check us out, or even our personal Facebook pages as well. But
get with them. I'm sure they'd be happy to take you up to Lake Hawaii in the fall. So if it can work out, right? Yeah. Get a couple 3 days booked on a weekend. Yeah, let's go. So yeah. I think I would sign myself up for one of those. So, all right. Thank you guys for joining us, and thank all you for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk Fishing with No Limits. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the water.